It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Okay, it's Friday. It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's I'll Do Better Tomorrow. I'm Justin. I'm here with Kylie. This is the episode where we look at the week that was and try to work out if things are going well or not and how we can do better tomorrow.
I feel like you're feeling a bit heavy today. I think you might need a dad joke.
Right, okay. I was going to give you all the reasons that I'm feeling heavy. I am. But mainly because it's really hard to do I'll Do Better Tomorrow when I've been traveling so much lately. And it's almost finished. The travel's almost done. But I have been away more than I've been home, and it's tricky. Tell me the dad joke.
How do you stop an astronaut's baby from crying?
I'm thinking something to do with space, atmosphere. No, I don't know.
You rockets!
Oh, my goodness. I want to laugh. Maybe if I was doing better, I'd laugh more.
I think you've lost your funny bone.
All right, let's dive into it. I'll do better tomorrow. We need to kick off with a word of the year review. We didn't do it last month. Can you remember your word of the year?
I can't believe you're asking me this.
Are you stalling now? You're stalling. I can see it on your face. You've forgotten the word for the year.
Yours was present.
Yeah, I love that you know mine. Hey, and do you know what? In spite
mine
of
was embrace.
Okay, all right, very good. In spite of the fact that I've been away a lot, I feel like I'm doing a better job of being present than I have in years. I really feel like I'm there for you and for the kids when I'm home. Maybe that's been amplified because I've been traveling a lot and giving talks, but I'm giving myself good marks. I'm going to say I'm like at a 7.5, an 8. I think I'm doing reasonably well. How's your embracing going?
Well,
it's a long stall. I think we've got everything we need.
Our eldest daughter may have asked me if I wanted to join her in the Mooloolaba Triathlon next March, and I may have said no.
Oh, I thought you said yes. I thought we were doing it.
And then baby number 3 said, I can't believe you said no. So now I'm doing it.
Oh, so you are in?
Yes.
Fantastic.
So I think I'm embracing.
Yeah. Right, okay. All right. Good on you. That's great. We've got some work to do.
We have.
We've got a lot of work to do.
I can't swim.
No. And there are some fitness obstacles to overcome as well, I'm going to guess.
I didn't say I had to do it well. I just had to do it.
Come on, if you're going to do it. You know what they say, if it's worth doing badly, because it was worth doing, so at least you've done it. So Kylie, I'll do better tomorrow. I'm going to share mine fairly briefly because there's very, very little for me to talk about. 2 things, just quickly. Number 1, last weekend we had your parents stayed with us for a couple of nights, and this isn't so much about me as it is just about the experience of having grandparents involved in positive ways in their grandchildren's lives. We've worked really hard to make sure that your parents and mine feel like they can visit us whenever it's convenient for them, whenever they'd like to. They stayed with us, and I walked into the kitchen and saw Lily, our 14-year-old, playing Uno with your mum. Your dad was off doing something else. We'd already had family time across the weekend.
I gave Dad a big list of handyman tasks.
Yeah. So he did. He didn't do any of them.
He was hiding.
He did one. He did one thing. He couldn't figure out the others. I digress. I walked into the kitchen and I saw Lily and your mum laughing their heads off as they tried to cheat each other at Uno. They were having so much fun. And I saw, this is why grandparents matter so much. I did a sort of an Ask Justin conversation about it the other day when a mum was saying, I don't agree with the way that my parents are going to be involved with my child. Like they're doing it old school, and I want them to be on board on the same page as me. Your parents are on a different page to us. They do things differently to us. And yet I saw Lily, this 14-year-old, surly, ornery, sometimes regularly frustrating 14-year-old. And I saw this side of her that I just haven't seen for weeks, maybe months. She was pure delight. And your mum was having a ball. And I thought, this is why grandparents matter. It was just beautiful. I stood in the kitchen and ate my yogurt and blueberries and just watched.
So you were the one who ate all my blueberries.
Yeah, that was me. I'm sorry. But you ate 3/4 of the punnet. Come on, I only had a few.
No. That was Indy.
Let's not have that conversation now. It was beautiful. So my I'll Do Better Tomorrow is really just a really big push for parents to do everything they can to involve grandparents in positive, engaging, active ways with grandkids, regardless of their capacity, right? Like your mum has very limited physical capacity, but she could sit at the dining table and play Uno, and it was magic. I didn't want to leave. And they knew that I was there, but they weren't engaged with me at all. They were so involved in what they were doing, and I had 5 minutes where I just stood there and watched, and it was beautiful, just beautiful. The second thing that I wanted to highlight really quickly is that last Saturday, I had the opportunity to speak at a conference in front of, I think it was 400 or 450 developmental paediatricians. The Australasian Conference of Developmental Paediatricians was held on the Gold Coast, and I was able to do a keynote for an hour and then another 90 minutes workshopping with them. And I was quite bold. I said to them, I talk to parents all the time who say, Justin, you're telling me to do one thing, and then my pediatrician is telling me to do the exact opposite. I don't know what to do. And I said to the pediatricians, you're doing it wrong. I said it nicely, I said it politely, but you're doing it wrong, and it's causing so much difficulty for so many parents. And they said, well, what do you want us to do? And we got to spend 2.5 hours workshopping and playing with ideas. And honestly, it was one of the highlights of my career, to stand in front of a room of that many people who really work so closely and so tightly with so many families who are struggling. And I just wanted to flag that. I love speaking at conferences generally. I love being able to give keynote addresses in schools, or I'm speaking at South by Southwest shortly in a couple of weeks in Sydney. But that conference with that particular audience, really intelligent, really engaged, and desperate to know. They pretty much said, we're pediatricians, we're medically trained, we haven't been taught this stuff. What do we need to know? It was just sublime. That's more news than I'll do better tomorrow.
I was going to say, I think you're cheating just a bit.
I am, but I'll do better next week.
You're hilarious.
What's your I'll do better tomorrow, Mrs. Happy Families?
Well, it might feel like I'm kind of harping on the same vein over and over again, but this whole idea of having family meetings.
Oh, I've got to say on this, at the pediatrician conference, one of the organisers came over to me and said, I've been listening to the podcast for ages. Ange, if you're listening, hello. And she said she listens to the podcast as much as she can, drives from north of Brisbane down to the Gold Coast every single day for work, or a few days a week for work. But she said family meetings have revolutionized her family. She said it's the most important thing that they do. And it's us harping on about it that makes the difference. Her and her husband, same page. Kids across what needs to be across. It makes an impact.
And so last week I mentioned that we had sat down and one of our daughters had acknowledged that while she had done 100 times better this week
on her
screen, there was still room for improvement, and she really wanted to work at that.
So anyone's been listening for a while knows that this is your regular news item, really. I'll do better tomorrow. It's just this ongoing conversation with our 14-year-old about how much she's using her screen.
So you went away for the week, and on Wednesday morning you rang me and you asked me how everything was going with the family.
And I had an agenda. I'd checked the screen time stats, and I knew that she'd been on her device a lot more than she promised.
And I acknowledged to you that it was really hard because we'd made some really conscious decisions around screen time, that now the kids were sitting in the lounge room and were very visual when they were on their screens. And so I wasn't actually sure whether it was getting better or worse because I could see it all happening before me. But you acknowledged that our 14-year-old had a number of more hours available to her on screen time.
Big numbers.
Than we had agreed on. And I couldn't work out how she'd done it. So you just said to me, when you get a chance, can you have a chat to her? So I didn't go to her immediately, which is something I would often do. If there's a bee in my bonnet, I want it fixed and dealt with straight away.
This is something that I've been emphasising for a long time. You don't have to fix everything on the spot. Wait until you're calm and the kids are calm. Choose your timing.
It actually didn't happen until the next day. She came to me and voluntarily handed me her phone.
She didn't know that you were planning on talking about it.
And she said, Mum, can you have my phone for the weekend? And I went, oh, this is too good.
On a Thursday.
This is perfect. And I said, hey, kiddo, I was talking to Dad yesterday and he mentioned that your screen time was a little bit high this week. And she looked at me and she said, yeah, I know. She said, that's why I'm handing my phone in now. And she said, and while I'm thinking about it, I actually think I should delete a whole heap of my socials. And so right in front of me, she deleted a whole heap of her socials and handed me back the phone. And I said, I'm just trying to work out how you managed to increase the time, because we put time limits on your screens. And she said, yeah, I know that too. She said, but I managed to get around them on the laptop. So she hadn't been using her phone. She'd been using her laptop, and she'd managed to change those screen times to enable her to be involved in whatever she was doing. And I said, well, that's a problem. I said, because you're handing me your phone, but you've also now just acknowledged that the phone's not actually the issue, because you've found a way to utilize your laptop and get around all of those, kind of boundaries that we've put in place. And she said, yeah, I know, but I won't do it anymore. She said, Mum, I've been kind of just taking stock of the way I'm using my screen. And she said, and I've realized that there is one particular platform that I've been using that's really problematic. She said, I post on there regularly, and as a result, I'm seeking the validation of others. But in order for me to be able to increase that involvement, I actually have to be validating other people all the time. And she said, and I'm just getting sucked in. And she said, and it wasn't until I looked at my screen time this morning and I saw how much I'd been on there. And then I went to my history to see what it was that was really impacting my screen time. She said it was this one platform. And she said, and I recognized that in spite of the fact that what I'm doing is actually a really good thing and I love doing it, the desperate need for validation and the need to validate others all the time has become quite toxic in her life. Can I tell you, again, this is the same thing. If I had had this conversation with her
and said, you need to do this, you need to do that,
we would have ended up with World War 555.
We've had a few, right?
It would have been intense. This is literally the first time this kid has, number one, been on top of this, like totally accountable. When I said to her, your screen time's been a bit up, normally on a normal day-to-day conversation, I would have had her up in arms, justifying her choices and how she was utilizing her time, and being really angry at me for asking her, like even just questioning her on it. But because we've been having this ongoing conversation, weekly check-ins and accountability with each of us, and at the same time putting ourselves on the firing.
Yeah, recognizing that we are not perfect and we need to improve as well.
She's been able to do that self-evaluation on her own and of her own fruition, and recognize that there are traits that she's not loving about herself and the way she's utilizing her screen.
So when I listen to this story, there's a couple of things that I want to pull out of it for a lot of families who are listening and going, yeah, not going to happen with my kids. Number one, your kids want to do well. They really do. Number two, this does not happen after one conversation. This has been about a month of
Well, let's be real.
discussions.
This has been an ongoing conversation her whole, kind of teenage years.
Right.
We've just gotten really concentrated in the last few months.
In the last month or so, we've really, really drilled into it and said, what's going on here? But I think the critical thing is when kids feel backed into a corner, like anyone or anything else, they push back. They want to get out of the corner and they want their freedom. By allowing this to sit, by continuing to have the conversations, and by saying, we don't technically have an agenda here. We're not trying to stop everything. We're just trying to find ways that we can get a healthy balance. And at the moment, it's not balanced. How do we work on this together? We've come up with, it's still imperfect. There's still room to move. We will continue this over the next week, fortnight, month, quarter, whatever. Yeah, of course. This is an ongoing thing. But it's giving her the time and the space to think through things and develop her own internal regulation around it, that she's starting to identify what matters. And this is, for anyone who's read The Parenting Revolution, this is where we move from external regulation, where someone's making me do it, to introjected regulation, where I'm doing it because I have to. Now she's moved to this thing called identified regulation, where I see the value in it. So I'm on board. The next step is called integrated regulation. I'm the kind of person who and then there's intrinsic motivation. But
Well, I think she's getting there, and the
she's
reason
moving towards integrated.
this is the really powerful moment of the story. The reason she came to me on Thursday morning was because on Wednesday night she'd been at a social gathering with all of her friends, having an absolute ball. But because she had her phone with her and she was obviously engaging on this particular platform, every time she got a notification, she was checking. She was stopping whatever the flow of the evening was, because this was so important. And it wasn't until she came home and she thought about it, and she just thought, I'm sitting there face to face with my friends, and yet there's people on the other end of a screen who are
Taking
demanding
precedence.
my attention more. And she said, I've watched it with other people and have been devastated that I'm not as important as whatever's on the screen. And she said, and in that moment, I realized I'm becoming that person. And this is huge. This is huge.
What a great story. There is hope. It can be done. It just takes time and patience and conversations and a willingness to let kids have the learning. We hope that there's some inspo in our conversation today. Thanks so much for listening. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. We love your work, Justin. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, everyone. And if you'd like more information about making your family happier, please join us at happyfamilies.com.au.